don't realise that the Beatles had just gone to #1 about 3 weeks earlier. Hadn't even been planned that way. They thought they would be in the maybe number 70 in the charts. But the Beatlemania took off in early January, and by the time they arrived, they were huge.
Hey guys, welcome to an episode of Searching for Goodness, and today we have Martin Lewis. Martin is a humorist, a writer. He is a journalist, political contributor, a marketing strategist. He is a comedic writer. He is an advocate for human rights. And one thing I read about Martin is that he worked with an organization called the Amnesty International. And he teamed up with John Cleese, who you guys know from the Monty Python movies, A Fish Called Wanda, and the James Bond films, and together you guys hosted this series benefit shows, and it was called the Secret Policeman's Ball.
Should we risk being perverted by the sight of Peter Cook and Monty Python's John Cleese, Graham Chapman, Michael Palin and Terry Jones interfering with pregnant women, impersonating schoolgirls, and flogging several dead horses, and cavorting in underpants with semi-naked wenches? Not to mention rock stars playing with themselves. I say no. This film is a crime against humanity and America. The Secret Policeman's Other Ball must be banned. But don't take my word for it. Go and see for yourself. You'll find I'm right. And I've never even seen it. Thank you.
The Secret Policeman's Other Ball. The stars of Monty Python at their hilarious best.
And you guys had Pete Townsend, who you guys know from The Who, and he had his Unplugged phenomenon. And also Martin was a marketing strategist for the physical media behind the Beatles, A Hard Day's Night, and the Ruddles, the Archaeology Reunion. And man, I mean, talk about a Renaissance man. But Martin, thank you so much for being here, man. Could you tell our audience more about you that I might have left out?
Well, thank you. Actually, that's all we have time for this week because the introduction took so long. I am slightly embarrassed, but not totally embarrassed. Everything you said is true, and I've done that and a lot more. I'm just very old, and I like doing things. I had the good luck that I was able to follow my passions, and my passions were to do work with music and comedy, and I was also very fortunate to get involved with Amnesty International because human rights was something that I cared about. So yes, I did a lot of things, and I wore a lot of hats, which is unusual because back 400 or 500 years ago, not that I was around then, the ambition of people was to be knowledgeable in lots of fields. Leonardo da Vinci was called a Renaissance man because that was the era, and he was a scientist and a sculptor and an artist and all of those things, and that was the aspiration. In the last couple hundred years, the aspiration is just do one thing. So most people have a career, they just do one thing. And people who do lots of things, there's a pejorative. They say, oh, jack of all trades, master of none. Well, no, that's not always the case. Sometimes people are a master of a few trades. And I've been fortunate to be able to do that. It's not an easy thing to do, incidentally, because you make more money if you're just one thing, because everybody says, hey, who's the guy that does this or does that? But I did lots of things, but I loved doing it, and it made a little contribution, so it worked out. What was your question?
I think you answered the question
well, I didn't mean
beautifully.
to. I didn't mean to. By the way, Renaissance man, that's really from 500. I'm so old. I'm a Dark Ages man. That was the period before the Renaissance. But yeah, it's for me enriching to do different things because each thing you do informs the other thing. So when I'm doing publicity, and then I became a producer. As a producer, I worked differently because I understood that publicity had to happen. So you look at things through a different prism. You look through a wider angle because you know there's more than one thing you have to do.
There's a funny story you say about it? Yes, a very funny story. Because shortly after this, after this happened, while they were in America, they went home to England and filmed the movie A Hard Day's Night, which we're also showing in the festival at the end of the
And there were scenes that looked just like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they'd written the film before this happened, but they anticipated it. And what was interesting is I was talking to Victor Spinetti, he plays the neurotic TV director. I don't know if you have ever seen a neurotic TV director anywhere, but he captures him perfectly. He's going to be at the festival, and he was saying that at the premiere of A Hard Day's Night, they were in a limo. He arrived with the Beatles in a limo, and they said, John just said, oh, look at all these screaming fans. And John said to Victor, push Paul out first, he's the prettiest.
So Martin, you are a pop culture historian as well as a Beatles historian. Now, I'm a huge Beatles fan. There's a lot of people out there that are bigger fans than me that put my fandom to shame. Beatles are not only a great band, they made timeless music. It's like a feel-good music. You know, the music is very charming. Many fans, before my time, watched the Beatles grow, and they've all had, successful careers, in the 70s up until, John's passing in 1980 and George Harrison's passing in 2001. But there's a lot of things going around about the breakup of the Beatles. There's a lot of people that have their own narrative about who broke up the Beatles. And, my question for you is, as a Beatles historian, who broke up the Beatles? And let's settle this once and for all to our audience.
Spoiler alert, the Beatles broke up the Beatles. Now, the Beatles got together first, the nucleus of the Beatles were together from late 1957 until 1970. That's a long time, and they were teenagers when they started. Now, you're a little older than a teenager now. Are you close friends with all the guys you were close friends with when you were 17?
No.
No. You might still like them and occasionally speak to them, but they're not the closest buddies because we grow. We humans grow. The Beatles were humans. They may have made music like the gods, but they were humans. They were like a family, and they grew. And they created fantastic music between 1957 and their recording career starts 1962. From 1962 to 1970, they created perfect music, and then they'd reached the natural end of their time together, and they grew apart, and they ended up going their separate ways. They left an incredible body of work. Now, when we were the teenage fans at that time, were heartbroken when the Beatles broke up. It's like mum and dad getting a divorce. Why are John and Paul fighting? Why can't they stay together forever? But they wanted to grow, and they had their solo careers. Looking back later, as we get older and mature, it was probably a good thing that they broke up because they created something wonderful, then they went their own ways and became grown men in the world. And we never had that embarrassment of the Beatles like the Rolling Stones in the 70s. They went disco. Come on! The Beatles never went disco. They just created great music and stopped. So sometimes they always take about an actor, the time is you have to know when to get off the stage. And the Beatles, in the end, they got off the stage at the right time. They did Abbey Road and said, that's it, we're done. Microphone dropped. They hadn't invented the expression microphone drop, but Abbey Road is the world's greatest microphone drop. The end, the last song is called The End, and then bang, over. And then, interestingly, the Beatles' music is still timeless and we're still enjoying it today. Why? Because great art is never about when it's created, it's just about what it is. It doesn't matter it was made in the 60s, it doesn't matter that Shakespeare wrote in the 17th century, or that the Marx Brothers were the 1930s, or that Ella Fitzgerald sang in the 50s. All that matters is, was it good? What the Beatles did in the 60s was stunning, timeless, wonderful, enriched the soul, and they decided to break up. So they broke up the Beatles, and they were right to do so.
Please wait while I let my guitar gently weep.
You can say that if you want. I'm not going to say it.
All right, well, thank you.
My pleasure.
I would like to introduce, as my next guest, the President of the United States.
Oh, actually, that's a typo.
Yeah?
Yeah, no, I'm the resident of the United States. There shouldn't be a P. Those people, my office, they get that wrong every time.
Damn it!
I'm the resident of the United States, but it means I'm just 1 P away from being president, which at my age happens all too frequently.
Nice.
Martin, One topic that I want to cover is humor. We live in a world right now where everything is politically correct. I remember growing up in the 90s and 2000s, there were actors, there were comedians that turned actors. You had Eddie Murphy, Jim Carrey, Adam Sandler, Will Ferrell, Robin Williams. Whenever we saw their faces on a poster, we knew that this was going to be an event. We knew that we were going to a theater, sit in a room, and laugh with strangers. Unfortunately, there are not that many theatrical comedies, in today's world. A lot of it is streaming, but it's just not the same as laughing in a room with strangers, where once one person laughs, it's just contagious. It just really kind of like you feed off of someone else's energy. And you're a humorist, you know a thing or two about humor. And because of social media, because of the younger generation, and because of the internet, people are really just loud. And there's a lot of films that are celebrated that probably wouldn't be made today. And my question to you is, why is humor important, and why do we need laughter?
The world is an extraordinarily tough place. There's a lot of misery, a lot of difficulty, and that's just both on a macro level, when we look at politics and we look at the environment and we look at the wide world and the international scene. And it's also, there's a lot of difficulties in our individual lives. People struggle with mental and emotional challenges, physical challenges. And as a species, Homo sapiens has one thing that most other species don't have: the gift of laughter, the gift to make people laugh, to be humorous. And we ignore that gift at our peril. It is it's a coping mechanism. And from the first pratfall, from the first time that somebody slipped on a banana skin and went flat on their face, to the latest political jokes, this is our vocabulary. We have two vocabularies: music, which is a universal language, and humor, which in its physical form is universal, and its spoken form is different to each country's language. But it's a balm to the soul. That's B-A-L-M. It's something that soothes us. So when the world makes us sad or angry, humor is our way of making ourselves feel better, of nurturing the soul. And there isn't anything as joyful as humor, as something that makes us laugh. So it's the most important thing in the world. I have had a lot of my life working with comedians, with writers, doing some comedy myself, and it's something that's immensely pleasurable and something that's incredibly valuable.
Right. And
so that's why we're both looking so sad.
Yeah, because comedy can also be a tragedy.
Yeah, it's two sides of the same coin.
And please, man, if some comedy is not for everybody, but find a humor that fits you. Go to the movies, let Hollywood know that you want to laugh. And if you laugh, they're going to keep putting out more stuff. And hopefully those comedians can laugh their way to the bank, and we can bring humor back.
You can laugh at anything. You can laugh at Armin's shirt, which is almost tie-dye. You can laugh at an English gentleman wearing a double-breasted suit in 80-degree weather. Whatever you want to laugh at, it's good.
One of the other films we're showing is a film that John Lennon suggested be made. It's a premiere of a film that was shot in 1968 in England and never got shown in America because it was considered too controversial. John Lennon suggested that a BBC filmmaker film all the great new emerging artists: Jimi Hendrix, Cream, Pink Floyd, Eric Burdon, The Animals, and Frank Zappa. And it was an amazing film, but it never got shown in America because it was considered too controversial. We're going to have the the American premiere a mere 39 years late.
Now, I can picture somebody as Martin saying something, I'm not in that movie.
Welcome back, viewers. And the more astute among you will have noticed that Armin has had a slight costume change and a quick shave. And now we'll continue on with the interview.
Yes, Armin just fell off the balcony. So, in the meantime, I'll take over. He's fine. So, where were we? You know, our show is called Searching for Goodness.
Yes.
So, as we ask all our guests, what do you think goodness is? And how can we spread goodness, find goodness, and what do you do personally to find and spread goodness?
Well, there's a lot of questions there, but I'll start with the definition of goodness, which is a tough one.
Yeah.
I think goodness is when we find something that is beyond our own self-interest. There's nothing wrong with self-interest. We're all human. We all are interested in ourselves and trying to have things that help us. But when you can go beyond that, that's always great. Now, I once was asked a similar question, and the way I came up to define goodness was what Nelson Mandela did. Nelson Mandela had been in prison for 27 years. He'd been treated badly, but when he was finally released, mainly due to pressure from outside, he had a path to take. He was at the crossroads of, like, he could have been angry, to have every right to be angry, vengeful, nasty. What did he do? He took the high road. He was forgiving of his captors. He worked with them for reconciliation. Now, I'll tell you honestly, if I was in prison for 27 years under harsh circumstances, I don't know either I would be that nice or that good. But Nelson Mandela is a better man than I was, in the sense that he said, no, whatever my self-interest, whatever my personal feelings are, there's a better thing, something that is good. And that was a definition, by being forgiving, allowing redemption for the people who treated him badly. Hello, that's a definition of goodness.
Very well said. So forgiveness is a big part of goodness. We got to be forgiving. And as far as I know, a lot of messiahs and philosophers said the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, don't expect me to be that forgiving. I ain't that good. But I do know what is good, and that is a definition of goodness.
Very good. And how do you try to do goodness and spread goodness?
Well, lately, my way of goodness has been to stop expressing some of the things that I feel as an old man. So if I see people with 1 million tattoos on them, which I think looks like self-desecration, I zip it. I don't express that opinion. It's my opinion, but is it going to make the world a better place to say it? No. If I hear music that frankly to my ears sounds like a lot of noise, do I express criticism? No, because I think back to what happened when my parents or their friends didn't like the Beatles or my music, and they used to say, oh, how can you listen to that? I thought, you know what? This music wasn't made for me. I don't get it. I don't understand it. But I'm not going to criticize it because it's not going to make the world a better place.
So you can say, in a way, being less judgmental.
No, I'm still judgmental. I think there's a lot to be said for being judgmental, but I don't keep talking. I don't keep expressing how judgmental I am. I try and keep it under my hat. Not as beautiful a hat as you are wearing, but yeah, I keep it under my hat. Now, by the way, there's nothing wrong with being judgmental. Some of that new music is dreadful. It makes you think. I mean, the Beatles, what were they wasting their time on? Trying to write melodies that you could hum along or sing, and words that made sense. They obviously wasted all their time. All they needed to do was just learn some dance moves and grab parts of their bodies. That would have done it. But I'm not going to say that, except for just now. So I am judgmental. Of course I'm judgmental. We're all judgmental, but I try not to be so judgmental in public, except on your podcast.
Thank you.
Americans have this lovely dewy-eyed image of Brits. We think of James Corden and John Oliver, Helen Mirren, and even an old fogey like me. But the reality is a lot of the Brits are actually, if you remember what Ricky Gervais was like on the Golden Globes,
Sure.
you've got that stream of vituperative negative reactionary bile, hating on anything progressive, anything kind or thoughtful or tolerant. And that is a daily diet in Britain, in the tabloids and in social media.
This book is called Oneness, and it's one of the inspirations of this whole project. And I read a different quote on each guest. For you, I got, not words or detachment, but action. It is necessary and perhaps one of our primary tasks on earth to actively resolve the differences and disagreements between people. Each person should have the goal to depart from this life, having removed from the world all need for locks and keys and weapons and armor. This goal may be too idealistic for many people, yet if no one on earth holds such an ideal, a state of peace and harmony will never reign on earth. Would you like to read the rest? So these are like different quotes from different religions saying about the same thing.
Okay. Well, first of all, I'm going to commend you because a lot of people don't know this is called a book. Now, books were very big back in the 20th century, but some places they're burning them now, probably because they're not getting enough heat, so they're looking for something to keep warm. But I love the fact you've got a book here, okay? And so all these different religions, not learning but doing is the chief thing. Pretty cool, that's a Jewish one. Not in words does God get answers. Taoism, very big on Taoism. We've got some lovely ones here. This is a fascinating thing. Would you like me to address the principle of this?
Yes, please. So it's pretty much saying, don't just say it, do it with action, right?
Action, when I was speaking with Armin earlier, I talked about how that was a passion for me. That I just feel like you follow your inspirations. I wouldn't have done it. If I'd been there on my own, I would never have done anything. But I watched people I admire do something. I thought, oh, I could do that. And I think that's also a big thing with actions, start small. Don't have these expectations, I'm going to change the world, because you're not. But if you change a little bit, it's not naive to think, you change a little bit, it adds up over time. It's just like the pebble in the brook. The ripples go. And so I've always believed in that. I do think that we need that aspiration. And how does love survive when you're surrounded by cynicism? All around us we have people who are cynical. They don't see good in others. They see the enemy. They don't see people who have different views. They see people who are dangerous. This never ends well.
Right.
It ends badly. So, in our own ways, as naive as it sounds, we have each a responsibility to try and make our little corner of the world better. Are we going to change the world forever? No. Are we going to solve all the problems? No, we won't. But if we do that, at least we leave the world a better place. Now, I'll quote from a film by a director that I worked with, Sam Peckinpah, and he directed a film called Ride the High Country. And there's a character in the film who is asked, he's getting on in life, and he's asked, what is it that you want in life? And he says, I want to enter my house justified, meaning that he wants to be able to go to meet his maker and know that he's done what he had to do, justified, done the right thing. And in our own lives, and we are small, we're grains of sand on a gigantic beach, we have to enter our house justified. So we try to do our best. We'll fail, but failure's not bad. Here's a definition of white rock and roll. Steven Van Zandt, who is the guitarist for Bruce Springsteen and plays in the TV show The Sopranos, once described white rock and roll. He said it's just white kids trying to play black rhythm and blues and failing magnificently. So failure isn't always bad. So you try and do something, you might fail. But if you fail well, then it's still good. I know this sounds naive, just, oh yeah, try, do your best. But you know what? There is no other glib answer. There isn't some, that's going to solve all the world's crises. It is just our responsibility to try to move the world in a better direction. And when we see things that make us angry, which we do every day, there's things that make us crazy with anger. Use humor. Don't yell. Don't scream. Make fun. Make fun, as we used in the 60s, make love, not war. Make fun, not war.
I like that motto.
Fun is the one thing, now quoting the Beatles, fun is the one thing that money can't buy. Something inside that was always denied. That's from She's Leaving Home. Fun is the one thing that money can't buy. So they also, the Beatles said, money can't buy me love. You can't get love, but you can get fun. Fun is something you can bring to the world and share with people. That's pretty good.
Very good answer. Yeah, and on top of what you're saying, my understanding is also not just saying I'm good, I'm religious, I'm this and that, but actually doing the good deeds. And like you said, small changes make a difference. We can't change the whole world, but one step at a time.
Well, maybe you could do it 2 steps. I mean, if you, without being greedy, you could do 2 steps.
Okay, two is allowed. Okay, our last question. So this podcast, our goal is eventually turn this into an environmental documentary narrative with hybrid film, and then start traveling the world, turning into like a doctoral series. And one of our main concerns is also environmental issues. So what are your thoughts on that? Like, fires happening, tsunamis happening, a lot of things happening has to do with global warming. A
warning and a warming.
Yeah. What do you think about that? Like, what can we do for environmental issues?
Well, first of all, what I have done personally, I planted this bamboo about 15 years ago,
nice.
and it's grown fairly well.
They say it brings luck too, right?
I don't know. I haven't had much good luck, but I've certainly been happy to plant the bamboo. It's difficult because I've just vowed not to get angry, but I do get angry when there is a denial of the importance of saving this planet. This planet has been going for a certain number of years, a little bit more than 5,000 years, and it's in our hands. No disrespect to some of the other species, but they have not yet mastered computers. They haven't yet worked out how to use the remote for the TV. Other species aren't quite as developed as we are. So, hey guys, it's on us. So, if that's the case, and we are aware, unequivocal knowledge, it's not an opinion of what's happening to the planet. So yes, that's something I do get angry about, because if we don't do something, somebody's going to blame us. Now, we're not going to be around when it goes down. The world is going to end in conflagration, probably. We won't be around. So it's easy to say, well, let someone else worry about it. But how does that help? So I do think it's an obligation to do something. Now, I have an obligation. One of the things I do is I don't drive. Well, that's because I'm too lazy, actually. So I have somebody else drive me. So that doesn't really count. But I try to do my little bit. I don't have air conditioning. Now, that's not because I want it, it's just because it's so expensive to get new air conditioners in, my one's broken. So it doesn't, here's the point though, it doesn't matter why you do the good deed, even if it's because you're cheap or because you're lazy, as long as you do something good, even that works. I mean, it's better if you do something noble, but I suppose in my little way, I think you probably do more than I do, but I do also think that there is one gas that we need more of, because we always talk about CO2 and the carbon off. I come again to the gas that comes when people laugh. That's a good gas, to let that gas into the atmosphere, the gas of laughter. So that's it's probably not very profound, but that's where I am.
I think 2 things that you do, humor and music, both help spread love and peace, and unite people. How does that help environment? I mean, in a different way, it does help environment. For us to have better energies around, for sure, better vibes, I think, and connects people together. But in terms of environment, I think choosing environmentally choices, like recyclable things, doing recycling, and also helping to those organizations as much as we can.
I agree with that. And the thing is, I remember Paul McCartney, who I've worked with, had a whole thing about people who didn't want to become vegetarian or vegans. Meatless Monday. One day out of 7. So that's not perfect, you know.
It's a start.
Now, would I go meatless forever? No, because I enjoy certain things. But there were days where I said, okay, I'm going to go meatless today. And that's what I mean about the small steps. They're not, it's not as great as gigantic steps, but the phrase is, don't let good be the enemy of perfect. If you only say, I'll only do stuff if I can do it perfectly, you won't do anything.
That paralyzes people.
Yeah, just do the best you can. It won't be perfect, but good is not the enemy of perfect. It's just something different.
Right. Let's wrap it up on that. I believe at the end of the day, the goodness will win, because light overcomes darkness, and we always finish our show saying, goodness will win. Would you do that with me?
I will be very happy to do that.
Let's get you in that. Let's bring you back to say goodness will win together.
1, 2, 3. Goodness will win. Trust me on that. To make a modest suggestion, please subscribe to this show.